or start interfaith, interrelationship, interreligious or interfaith relationships. We saw, we looked at how Samson behaved, what was the response and the reactions of his parents, and we also looked at what if we do right now could also potentially put us into severe danger. We have we realize that marriage is such a serious thing that it requires adequate preparation, not just financial but spiritual, and evaluating, assessing your own values, your own belief system, knowing is what matters most. This afternoon, I just want to welcome you back. And if there was somebody who was not here previously, I am hoping that the communication team, you would advertise the YouTube link. If you can put the link in there, okay? If you can put the link in the chat so that those who couldn't make it can also do that. So, and our friends who are on YouTube and watching us, we just want to thank God for you for being a part of this exercise. And I hope that you will allow God to also bless you greatly as we work towards this afternoon. As I indicated, in the morning, you couldn't ask questions, but this afternoon, please feel free to ask questions. I love questions. And by the way, I am not sitting here as a know-it-all. I am here to facilitate, to present, and also we have enough time for you to ask questions. This afternoon, we are going to look at interfaith marriages relationship a bit detailed. All right, we're going to look at it a bit detailed. We're going to see what makes it really a challenge. It's not just a matter of faith. As I show you this morning, there's a lot more involved there. We are also going to look at the position of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, which you belong to. And then we are going to look at what you can do. We talked a bit of this in the morning, and also what you can do as a person if you are now considering getting in there. And in the morning, we talked a bit also about what you can do if you're already married, if you're already in an interfaith relationship. And then I also encourage people to share, to share some, experiences or ideas. Okay, I'm not here to tell you what you should do or not to do. I'm going to present it to you as it is. Hopefully, that will inform your decision and your choice. As I did in the morning, I'm going to tell you the potholes, the challenges, as I did in the morning. So I want to encourage you to whisper a prayer for me, because I know that this touches the core of many people. A lot of people are struggling with this. The moment the poster went out, I posted it on my social media page, the responses were overwhelming. And I've had friends who joined from Ireland, from Rwanda, from other African countries who are here, and some have returned this afternoon as well. And after the program this morning, I've had some feedback. People have questions. So please feel free to ask questions, raise your hand, okay? Raise your hand. The YouTube link is also there. You can also take your time if you missed the morning. Feel free to take your time after this to join as well. If you have a question or a comment, I'll be taking pause. I'll be breaking from time to time for you to ask questions. And also, if you want to give a contribution. I want you all to do this because this is a Christian organization. I'm hoping that even if you don't agree, you will do all of this in the spirit of Christian love and respect to all others as well. So I'm going to continue from where I stopped in the morning. And so let me just jump straight right here and share my screen. In the meantime, let me just ask here, was there any question? Does anybody have any question here that came as a result of the morning session? Anybody want to share something that stood out with you that you'd like to share? Anybody? I heard only my voice throughout the morning. I would like to hear somebody's voice. Anybody has a question or comment that you would like to share with us? Okay, yes, Bo, yeah. Bo, can you go ahead, please?
Yeah, thank you very much, Pastor. Pastor, if you are already married and you realize that you are not compatible,
yes,
what do you have to do?
Oh, that's a lovely question. Thank you very much. The good thing in this, and I think as I presented in the morning, is that there is hope. There is hope. As people of faith, we do believe that there is hope. God is able to do everything for us, but he won't do for you that which he's giving you the resources and the opportunity to do it. As I said in the morning, knowledge has increased and men are running to and fro. In fact, I think that has contributed to faith marriages. We're living in places where we don't live with our own, people that we know. So we meet people and develop relationships. But thankfully, there are professionally trained therapists, counselors, marriage counselors. You have pastors who are also equipped to help, to improve it. I know that a lot of people of African descent, and especially the brothers, will say, why should I go and sit in front of somebody to share a problem? But the truth is, if you could have solved this, you'd have solved it long ago. Going to see a clergy, a pastor, going to see a professional, relationship and marriage counselor helps because they are able to ask questions that will help couple to think differently. They are able to challenge you to retake a second look. And I've come to realize that when a couple are in front of a third person, the other person who typically may not talk, the person who is leading creates a balanced field. So if the woman is not talking or the man is not talking, the counselor or the pastor or the clergy or whoever it is will say, please hold on. What is your thought? You haven't said much. Can I hear you? What do you think about it? And it creates that space for the couple to reason and come to solutions. So what you can do, pray about it. This is a church, so I need to say that. Pray about it. Number 2, look for an external help, possibly your pastor or a very experienced person who has the skills to listen and to help, or importantly, also get in touch with a marriage counselor or a relationship specialist to help you deal with these issues. There is always hope there, trust me. There is always hope. Yes, Sister Senses. You have many senses. And I hope I answered your question. I hope I answered that correctly. All right, let's go to Senses.
Okay, I was struggling to myself.
All right, that's okay.
I want to ask, I've seen a YouTube video of an Adventist pastor. I wouldn't want to mention names, but he was saying that until the Sunday law is passed, you can't call someone in a different faith as an unbeliever. You know that quotation about Paul when it says,
Right.
So he was all about it. What's your take on it?
Okay, so this is a very theological kind of question, but let me try and answer it this way. Number one, the general rule that I give to people when they ask question about an unbeliever is somebody who doesn't share in your own beliefs and practices. But when the Bible said that an unbeliever, this is what I believe, that this unbeliever is somebody who doesn't accept Jesus Christ as their Lord and personal Savior. Now, Ellen White makes a very profound statement. Forgive me if I'm unable to give you the source right now, but she indicates that, and I hope that Pastor Neville would also agree with me here, that Ellen White has said that God is going to judge us based on the amount of light that we have of him. In other words, he who much is given, much is expected. So there are people who believe in Jesus Christ and as their Lord and personal Savior, but they do not, and they are sincere in their faith, but they may not know certain other aspects. For example, some of our Adventist specifics, like the state of the dead or the Sabbath. And I believe in the heart of my heart that there will be many non-7-day Adventist Christians who are believers who will make it to heaven. But when we bring it into the context of marriage, when we bring it into the context of relationship and marriage, it changes the dynamics a little bit because, in fact, let me hold it here. Because of how intimate, apart from the relationship between God and man, the most intimate relationship is marriage. And so every little thing that we do with God, it has an impact on us. Those who believe in Jesus Christ and have accepted him as their Lord and Savior, who may not be, following every doctrinal issue, but sincerely serve God based on their knowledge, I believe that God will welcome them. And I'm leaving that to God. But let me hold it here because I'm going to be touching on some of these things and why this is important as we go along. I'm going to focus a bit on that. So pardon me, I hope I've answered your question probably halfway, but let's go ahead. Well, the issue about Sunday law and to that, I'm sorry, I can't really make comment on that because I don't know what premise that speaker is coming from, but at this stage, this is what I can say. Pastor Neville, have I seen you unmute yourself to share something?
Not to share, Pastor, this time, but you're quite right with the statement that we'll be judged on the amount of light that we've been given. And I'm trying to find the reference for now. I'll post in the chat if I can. Right.
But I'm sure this is from the spirit of prophecy, isn't it?
That is right, yes.
Exactly. Thank you there. I'm happy you are in the background, so if I feel I'm on fire, I'll just I'll just call on you. But so but thank you for that question. And I'm hoping that my sister, I'm hoping that you are answered or partially answered for now. Now, let me put it this way. Now, I'm sharing this here because of a reason. Now, let's look at this. For those of you who are hurt and heartbroken and you said, look, I'm giving up, I just want to start this afternoon by encouraging you that don't give up. Keep your faith trusted in God. If you have been hurt or you have been heartbroken, you can get ready again to start a new relationship. God is a God of surprises. I have had clients who, some of them have been at the point of giving up. In fact, even this past week, and good news is happening. And I'll tell you some of the things that they do. Sometimes the problem is that the sisters want to sit back with their arms folded, hoping that something would drop from heaven. It is time for me to say, let me say that, sister, relearn yourself. What did I do wrong in my previous relationship? What did I do right? What can I change? What can I improve? So you relearn yourself. Okay. Number two, in the word ready, elevate the space. And I'm telling you along the line how you can elevate that space. Don't just sit in the corner. Be assertive. Be what is the word? Be proactive. That's what I'm looking for. Be assertive, be proactive. I know that sometimes, a lot of us know that we want to be in a relationship and we want marriage, but feel very embarrassed, letting somebody know that we are looking for a life partner. Just because this person is a sister, oh no, it's embarrassing for me to even let somebody else know, or my pastor know that I'm praying for a life partner. There is nothing to be ashamed of. If you like somebody, pray about it, observe the person, be bold and comfortable. Men take it from you all the time. There are men who get browned every now and then. And if I say get browned, they get turned down. All right. But that doesn't mean that you lost anything. In fact, you have the courage to show that. Okay. Of course, based on some cultural stuff and all of that, some people do not feel comfortable, taking steps. But we have examples in the Bible when Naomi, when you read that story, how this lady was giving some tips of how to draw the signs and signals for to grab the other person's attention. So be open about it. And I think I've talked about that in the last time, about a month or so ago when I did a presentation here. I'll be touching a bit on what you can do as well to reach out to people today. It is much easier to do that in the olden days. Ask what you want. Ask God what you want. And if you find somebody, state what you want. Some of us keep quiet. Like I said this morning, some of us do not put our faith forward straight away. We are afraid, even when it comes to work. We are afraid if I talk about my faith that I'm going to lose this. But it is important that you share an issue as your faith and your belief. It's your core. It's part of your core belief. You don't hide it. You don't privatize it. You need to put it straight forward there. Decide to put yourself out there. We'll be talking about that very soon. How do you decide to put yourself out there? Don't hide in the corner. Don't be in the room praying every day, God be with me. The first man I'll see in chair must be my wife. You're going to meet Pastor Neville and his family, and then you soon realize that your prayers have not been answered. God is not a magician. God has given you the tools and the power. He said, whatsoever you ask in my name. If you need courage, ask for courage and step out there. And stay fearless. It's important. Stay fearless. I'm sorry about the other part of this. So what are some of the places that you can go to? Where are some of the places that you can go to? Camp meetings. Remember those days when we all used to go together and meet at one place? And be friendly. Some of you are the last to come to church and the first to leave. You don't even wait to shake hands, get to know people, introduce yourself, and ask for their names and all of that. And I think the last time I did a presentation here, I talked about FORT, F-O-R-T. Okay, F-O-R-T. We'll talk about that a little bit. So number one, be friendly. Okay, be friendly. If you want to be friends, be friendly. Number two, O stand for, talk about, so when you are friendly, you talk about the family. Oh, hi, how are you? Is this your first time here? Are you here alone? Are you here with your family? Start a conversation in a friendly way. Some of you go for camp meetings and youth camps and you are only in your clique, the same people you left the home with, the same people you left Manchester with. It's the same clique, it's the same group. You never get to make friends with anybody. How would you be able to connect with other people? When you say hello to somebody, that person, it's a connection for you. Even if it's not that person may have friends or family who also know friends and family. So you see, there is an exponential connection there. But you left with people from Manchester, you stayed in the same room with them. During lunchtime, you sat at the same table with them. Prayer time, you stood and prayed with them. Sin time, you stood and sinned with them. What I'm saying here is, reach out. Don't sin, though. That was supposed to create humor. Don't sin. Reach out. Connect with others. It's very important. Camp meeting is, I'm not saying camp meeting is a date meeting, but camp meeting is a good time to get to connect with others. And every day when you guys, when you meet in church, it's an opportunity for you to make new friends. If that person doesn't know somebody, that person knows somebody. I can tell you on authority that there's a couple who have never met before. Okay, they're from different countries, but the lady met somebody who knew somebody who was in another country, Ghana, and he said, look, I have this friend, he's a good guy, maybe you should get to talk with him. And today, as I'm talking to you now, we are doing premarital counseling. The lady has gone back in the country and come back a couple of times. And by the grace of God, in the next few months, before the year ends, they're going to get married, and they have been embarking on, for the past more than 3 months, almost 4 months, they've been doing serious, thorough, deep level premarital counseling. By the grace of God, it's not for free from me. Okay, let me put it right there so you know. Okay? So you know that, because that's my work. I do professional counseling. I go the extra mile to help, to give more for them. Camp meetings are good places. Days of fellowship, maybe area 2, they are worshiping, okay? Even if it's on Zoom, when somebody is singing, this person is singing, okay? Is they wearing a ring? Okay, they not look like they're married, send a message to them privately. Brother, that was great singing. I would love to have you sing in my church. Can I have your contact? Now, I'm not saying when the pastor is preaching, you should be making connections when divine service is going on. Just find out who they are or ask about them. Even when it is virtual worship, be positive and trust in God and have faith that He will guide you. When we start worshiping in person, and thankfully UK is opening faster than we are, say hello to somebody, ask them how they cope during the pandemic and how to start normal friendship. So ask about them, be friendly, and ask about their family and all of that. Then you go to, so that's nice. I'm also here with my parents and all of that. Go to, in the letter FORT, go to occupation. So what do you do? What do you do for a living? Are you a student? Oh yes, I'm doing petrochemical engineering at Portsmouth University. Oh, wow, that's impressive. Be kind, compliment them and all of that. Don't start to say, sister, God has revealed to me that it is you. If you don't listen to my voice and you go to somebody else, you'll not be happy in your marriage. I am meant to be your husband. Don't do stuff like that. I tell people, and sister, if somebody comes to you and said, the Lord has revealed to me, it is very simple. When the angel revealed themselves to Mary, the angel also revealed himself to who? Joseph. To Joseph. Okay, brother, I am happy God has revealed this to you. Let me also pray so that, I will have some revelation from God as well. So this is very, very important. So I'm putting the list out there. Okay, camp meeting, days of fellowship, visiting other branches of the church. I know it's okay, and I know your church elder needs you there every Sabbath, but once in a while, go to South, go to Manchester South, go to Gorton Church, okay? Try and you see, and when you are introduced and you are waving your hand, you stand, cast a 360 degrees. Lord, I'm in this church today. May I be spotted by the Holy Spirit. Look around, and when you go to a new church as a first-time visitor, you see the way they welcome you. Be friends. Don't start saying things that will scare everybody away from you. Make friends from other churches as well. Youth camps, wonderful places. Youth camps. Oh, social media platform. You've seen the person, you know the person, you know this person is great. As I said the last time, I think a month or so back, request for their friendship. And like I said, whatever they post, if it makes sense, like it, comment on it. They will know that somebody is following them. If possible, send them a private, DM them, just direct message them. Oh, I think I met you before. Are you at Manchester South? Are you at Gorton Church? Are you at Old Trafford Fellowship? And stuff like that. And keep the conversation going. Listen, social media should be a tool, a conduit. It shouldn't become the destination. Social media should make it easy for you to connect with other people. Ask for their name. If you forgot to take their contact, go on Facebook or social media, search for them and say, look, I am so sorry. Remember we met, I couldn't take your contact, but I'm happy I found you here. Be assertive about it. Be assertive. Go to other denominations. I did Adventist Match is a good place. They would ask for your district pastor or your church pastor. They will ask about it. So the form is there. And I used to work for them so many years ago. These are places you can connect. Even within Manchester area, you can find people who are single, who are Seventh-day Adventists, or who share your faith. For those who are not Seventh-day Adventists on this platform, you can, connect, find out. But let me warn you, anything you do on social media, you need to be extremely careful, because there are people who can impersonate, who can pretend to be something. But what I'm saying is that these are areas where you can sift and cut down on a lot of these as well. Your friends, okay? Friends of your friends, your old friends, your primary school friends, your high school friends. Some of you will never be part of your high school year-end group or something. Connect with them. You just may never know who, okay? And find out what they are doing. Where did they go to church now and stuff like that? Find out. As I said, former school and college mates that you share a lot in common. You need to up your game. You need to put yourself out there. You need to pray. Listen, the Bible says he who finds, so you have to search and find. It doesn't just drop in your arms. You need to put yourself out there. As I said, friends of friends. When it becomes necessary, trust in your pastor and your church leaders. These must be people who are not everywhere talking about everything. You can say, Pastor, I want to share this with you in confidence. I am 28. I've been praying for a life partner, but that hasn't happened. And I need your support in prayer. Okay? Some of them, if you want them to connect you with somebody or whatever, say it. But be careful. Be sure that it is purely friendship. It could go either way. Okay? It could go either way. There are some people who just don't feel comfortable being matched with others. But if there is something you're looking for, let the pastor know that I want it to be just friends. Introduce her just to be friends for now, because I don't want any expectation from you at this time. And I also want to caution the church leaders, elders, and some church leaders who say, oh, this brother, he has been a treasurer. Being a treasurer or a choir leader or youth leader may not necessarily make you a wife or husband material. So allow these people to get to connect, to know themselves, and make assessment and find out whether this is good for them. Last Sunday, I wish I had invited them to join us this afternoon. Last Sunday, a gentleman who is doing his PhD in a very popular university in the United States, You know, he and I've been talking and all of that. And somebody saw him in church and found out he was single. And he said, oh, I have this niece who, you know, if you could give it a thought and talk to the niece. It happened that the niece, they just clicked. This is somebody who has a PhD in nursing. And this other gentleman is also doing PhD. And they all belong to the same faith. Apparently, they had even met during potluck. And after they had said hello to each other, but you know, that was it. And somebody collected his food and went to the other end. You see the way things happen? Don't just sit in your corner and hoping that some miracle is going to happen. Of course, miracles do happen, but God has given you the power and the wisdom and this presentation to give you a few more tips. Talk to trusted family members who believe and share in your faith and let them know what you are looking for. And by the way, when you have your list, your checklist, just get to know that some good life partners may not come in the same shape you're looking for. There's a couple who I'm preparing now for marriage. The lady has 2 companies, businesses, and is completing PhD soon in a university in the UK. The gentleman only has a first degree, and she's earning far more. But we, through premarital counseling, are dealing with these issues about even finances and academic differences, and so they know, and they belong to the same faith. So that's on the tips for those who are looking and haven't found yet, okay? Those who are looking and have not found yet. But so let me share with you here, let's go back to the main theme, which is interfaith marriage. As I said earlier in the morning, interfaith relationships and marriage pose serious problems and can create crisis for the couple and their respective families. No doubt about that. It can create a lot of challenges, a lot of issues. My apologies. It looks like okay. So these are the reasons. These are the reasons. For a marriage to succeed, the young couple, especially in interfaith marriage, the young couple must psychologically and emotionally separate from their families of childhood. Okay, so if your family doesn't support this, there is often that feeling of, you know, isolation and guilt, separation and guilt. So it's important that you do your work so that you don't feel isolated. And I think I said this in the morning, so I won't spend too much time on that. If the in-laws are against interfaith marriage, the stage is set for conflict, bitterness, and misunderstanding, with damaging and long-lasting consequences for this relationship. Not just for the bride and groom, but even if this is not resolved, it can go as far as creating some ill feeling for the grandparents. I mean, your children who are going to come. Also, such hostility can provoke enormous guilt for the young bride or groom. If one of the parents is not in for this, it can create a lot of challenges. This guilt makes the task of emotional separation even more difficult to achieve. And then you go into your new marriage and you feel alone, you feel isolated, and then if care is not taken, chronic loneliness, depression, or anxiety can set in, and that can in itself affect the health of the relationship. Now, let me say this, perhaps the greatest task of all is coping with feelings of guilt about having left the fold, you know, the family of God, and defied the family. I mean, especially where parents don't seem to support it, and the church doesn't seem to be on your part. You feel guilty for having left. Many such people agonize over the fact that they were leaving their religious heritage, and there's a lot of struggle. And as I said in the morning, unfortunately, some churches have been so mean that we have mistreated such people and not extended love and acceptance to them. We'll see what the church position is on that. Couples with shared value. Now, this is so important. So we talked about separation and guilt. Now, let's talk about let's look at a little more deeper into this. Couple with shared values, value system, where I talk about values in the morning, makes it easier for them to cope than those who come from very diverse background with different values. So if you leave your family, and especially where your family is not being in support of it, and you leave your faith, and then you go into this other person's church, it's going to take even time to build a new social support system there. Now, mind you, I'm talking here as a therapist, okay? And we'll start delving a bit into, what the church says. So if you have similarities, as I said in the morning, it is more strength. Compatibility is strength. It's like is it the cement? It's like the glue that holds the relationship together. You have a lot in. There is no more important task in marriage than the achievement of a deep level of intimacy and commitment between partners. So the more commonalities you have, the more shared values you have, the deeper the intimacy, the deeper the commitment. So you are not here and then on Saturday, you are wondering, oh, by now, children's story time in your home with your kid. Oh, by now, we're having potluck. Oh, you both of you share things together. And I like this definition of intimacy, all right? I like this definition of intimacy by Random House. This is what it says. Intimacy refers to the state of two people being close, familiar, affectionate, and loving. You see that? Being close, familiar, affectionate, and loving. It reflects a deep understanding and love for the other with feelings of passion. Oh, I love this definition. With feelings of passion. So, and what I'm saying is that the more commonalities you have, the more similarities you have. As I said in the morning, similarities are like credit in the bank. Similarities are like credit, savings in the bank. Differences or dissimilarities are like a loan. You're owing the bank, debt to the bank that you have to pay. So in times of crisis, like there's a reason why we saw a lot of relationship and marital problems during this pandemic, because the cracks started showing, because couples were using job. You leave, okay, you don't deal with the problem, you travel and you leave for work, and in the evening you come home, you are tired, few minutes you've gone to bed. But this time we all day inside, as we say in one country there. We're working from home, living in the house, you're not going anywhere, everything is locked down, and you have to deal with each other. I can tell you, in my practice, the number of calls or clients we get every day on one relationship matter or the other. It was difficult because sometimes you might be having an issue that when the person goes, you feel like, at least I have some space not to worry. But this time you are together. And intimacy is important. The more similarities you have, the stronger the intimacy. So the more you have together, the easier it is for you to build intimacy. Imagine you attended this program and maybe in an in-person worship, and then you went home and you're trying to share with your partner who didn't attend. And you're wishing that they were here to participate. While sharing one religion, please take note of this, while sharing one religious tradition in marriage does not guarantee success in the marital endeavor. As we know the statistics show that even in the churches, there's still indication of marital problems and divorce. It at least increases the likelihood that two people have a certain mutual understanding because they share a common religious background. As I said this morning, you don't fight over what type of fish do we have to eat. Neither would you quarrel over whether we should pierce the girls' ears or give them jewelry or stuff like that. There are things you don't worry when the Sabbath is coming or whatever. Okay, you don't go out to booze because you don't drink, because there are certain religious bodies that frown strongly on alcohol, like Seventh-day Adventist Church, and there are others who say you should drink but don't get drunk. How do you tell when I'm going to get drunk? Until I'm drunk, or until I notice that I'm getting drunk. So there are a whole lot that can come in there. Now, with interfaith marriage, the task of achieving intimacy is more daunting. Please take note of that. With interfaith marriage, you see, sometimes when we talk about intimacy, people are thinking of only sexual intimacy. No. It goes into emotional intimacy, psychological intimacy. And I think if you remember the previous presentation I did a couple months back, communication, even it affects the way you communicate. In fact, if you go to a typical Seventh-day Adventist church, sometimes you need to ask a few things. We use certain words that are only found in the Seventh-day Adventist church. The pen of inspiration says, the spirit of prophecy says, VOP. Huh? You heard those words before. Eh? Sister White, I remember at University of Ghana, when I used to be a chaplain, one day a young lady who visited us after church, I think the preacher we invited to preach was quoting, he said, and Sister White said, and then after church, when we meet, I went to talk to this new student, a non-Adventist visitor, and she was like, where is this lady? Who is she? Did she come to church today? I said, which lady? She said, oh, the preacher, the reverend. I said, no, we say pastor here. Yeah, the pastor was saying Sister White, Sister Ellen White. Is she here today? I said, no, she died almost 100 years ago. So there are certain terms and terminologies, like 13th Sabbath, okay? 13th Sabbath. These are terminologies that are common to us. Interfaith marriage, the task of achieving intimacy is all the more difficult, all the more daunting, since there is so much that is taken for granted when a person grows up in a particular type of home or community. We take so much. You don't have to bother asking your wife or your husband or whatever in the same faith, especially if you're Seventh-day Adventist. So how many earrings are we buying for our kids? These are petty things. You don't have to struggle over tithe and offering, as I said this morning. There are all even the non-verbal gestures and facial expressions, idiomatic expressions, and the types of food and holiday celebrations that characterize a particular religious experience. Even body language, facial expressions are influenced. Studies have shown that they are influenced by our religious experiences. For example, you go to church on a Saturday, you're going to have the Lord's Supper, and then, especially when I used to be chaplain in some of this institution, when we are having the Lord's Supper and we are fetching water and we are washing the feet of people, and you see students passing by. Some of you are using their mobile phone to take photos because they haven't seen anything like that before. So things that we do, even facial expressions, certain idiomatic expressions, okay, and types of food, as you already know, and certain holiday celebration like 13th Sabbath, the Sabbath itself, camp meetings, and other stuff that may be alien to somebody, even if they know before they get in there, experiencing it within the marriage can become a challenge. I talked about this in the morning. All these things which people of one faith and cultural background can understand and identify with in one another help to build intimacy. For example, you go for communion service, and we say, all couples, go to this side. You're washing the foot of your spouse, and your spouse is washing your foot, all these things. And then after the foot washing, you pray, you wash each other's foot, and after that, you hold hands to pray together. You sit in church, sing from the same hymn book, hear the same sermon. Sometimes we call you both to come up and sing together, and all of that. They all build intimacy, and they all strengthen the relationship. It also gives you the opportunity to train up your children in the way they should grow in the Lord and behave themselves. Whenever I go to church and I see children running up and down, and while service is going on, I begin to wonder whether the parents have trained up the children to know that this is not our sitting room, this is the house of God. When two people of different backgrounds, from different backgrounds and faith come together, there is less common ground, there is less commonality, there is more dissimilarities. And the opportunity for understanding and, the opportunity for misunderstanding and confusion and hurt feelings are plentiful, because sometimes people may pass comments about your faith and you might feel hurt because, as I said this morning, your faith also affects your belief system, your identity. It defines your belief system, defines your identity, defines your values, defines your principles. And it will determine what you would do in times of trouble or difficulty or challenges, even in time of plenty. So with interfaith relationship, the more differences you have, the more misunderstanding, the more confusion, and the more the hurtful feeling, and the more challenge you may have when you come into having a more effective communication skill. For example, if you love to go for camp meeting, or there's an all-night service, or there's a all-day something, or communion service, and that person passes a loose comment or a comment that makes you feel that they don't appreciate you, and they don't add the same value you add to communion service, or all-day prayer, or something, or camp meeting, it could feel hurtful. The other partner may not be intentionally deciding to hurt you. It's just that they don't have the same, they don't attach the same value as you do to theirs. You are preparing because the sun is going to set, and they don't see the importance of it. And then there's also the new challenges after the wedding could emerge when the wedding is over and the couple faces life as a husband and wife. A crisis can erupt with the birth of the first child if the couple has not come to some decisions about child rearing, parenting, as I said this morning, education. Where do we take our kids to? What type of education do we want them to have? And what type of faith we want them to belong? Who will be the spiritual leader in the home? If we don't go to the same faith, what are we going to do in the house? What hymns, what songs, what children's songs, what memory verses, whatever? Whose responsibility would that be? So I'm just breaking it down for you to see some of the practical challenges here. There is also a feeling of isolation in church. And the feeling of isolation in church could also feel like a feeling of isolation even from God. Remember, we say iron sharpeneth iron. If you stop going or you start withdrawing, you start backsliding, you could feel that it's not just isolation from church, but you could feel that your relationship with God in itself is questioned. Quite often in times of problems, the couple has the difficulty to easily take note of this, easily accept help from their partner's church. If you take your pastor to come and help you deal with the issue, so now you have gone to report me to your church. Even if they choose to listen, it becomes difficult. And sometimes because of certain things, you don't even want to accept help from you. So you see that there's a lot of secrecy, and some of people in this situation may be hurting. Because some people feel, well, maybe they might be saying, we told you so. So they may put up a nice face in church. I knew a couple who were in interfaith marriage, And I remember one day, the man will every Saturday morning come and drop the woman and their children in church. And then I went to her and said, sister, so and so, I really like what your husband is. He said, he's a good man, but honestly, I feel lonely. He comes to drop us, 3 kids and me alone. And when this kid, I'm taking care of this one is running over there, and I have to try to control all the 3 of them. It's stressful. Sometimes I don't even want to come to church because I feel embarrassed when my child is over there and I have to be running around and be taking care of the 3 of them at the same time when he could have just been here to help me. It can affect your faith. This morning, I was telling you about an auntie of mine. After that incident I shared in the morning where her husband, after rising through to become an elder and then later going to baptize the kids in the other faith, I remember my auntie saying, has it not been that the Bible says should be only marital unfaithfulness? I would have left him. About a year or 2 later, when I went back to visit them, he said, had it not been that the kids are young, the kids are still young, I would have left him. Have you realized that because of that, her own faith in God and her own principles were becoming weaker and weaker? The first reason for her staying there was biblical, that it should be only marital unfaithfulness. The second time, about a year or 2 later, she said, had it not been that the children were still young. So now she had even shifted in her own faith. So if at that time that they were having these challenges, the children were grown, she would have gone. Do you see how this thing can affect your own faith and weaken your own belief if care is not taken? The mental health and well-being of children depend upon their having a clear religious identity. Sometimes, these things can affect the children. They may develop anxiety, they may develop some other mental health and well-being problems later in life if parents are not very clear about practices and religious identities. Are you surprised now? Now I want to tell you something which I'm careful saying. Recently, a client told me that her 12-year-old daughter says that she's gender non-binary. She is neither male nor female. She doesn't want to identify. She's neutral. She's gender neutral. And I can tell you, 12-year-old, 14-year-olds and stuff. And I could see this poor lady struggling. And you dig a little deeper and you realize that, she said, in our home, we are very inclusive and in our home, we are accepting of everybody, and stuff like that, but I am struggling. You see, I came from so-and-so religious background and you could see that they didn't put any clear, guideline, identity. They didn't define anything. And this is Europe. It is easy for a 14-year-old kid to tell you to change their nomenclature, to change their names to a unisex name. I remember in my first practice, one of my first clients, I could see clearly it's a man, but said is gender neutral and his dressing is a unisex, and he has a long ponytail, and you could tell as a young coming clinician, it was quite a challenge for me. How do I refer to him, he or she? Now, so we agree on they for one person. And you know that this happens these days in the office environments and all of that. So sometimes parents contribute to some of these things because your children's religious identity also can affect their own sexual orientation along the line. In addition, so where we think that, we're all inclusive and there's no a singular guideline, and that you say, it's okay, we accept this in our family, we accept this faith in our family, we accept this faith, you confuse all of them. And at the end of the day, have you realized that in Europe these days, a lot of the young people, by the time they go to college, they're done with church. In addition, the practice of religion has been found to help children avoid the influences of what? Drugs, alcohol, and adolescent sexual relations. When there's clear religious practice in the home, it influences, it affects this. In fact, I don't know when I shared this with you, 2018, Harvard University, I think something on T. Chan School of Public Health came up 2018 September. They found out that young people, they followed some young people for 14 years, about 5,000, I think 5,500 young people for 14 years, between 8 to 14 years. And they realized that those young people who, participate in weekly, church attendance and meditated and prayed daily with their families, the research found out that in their 20s and late 30s, they did better with mental health. They did better with college work. They were more likely to vote. They were more likely to volunteer, and they handled depression and anxiety situation far better. So you see what it is. It helped to have, to have a singular faith at home. Several researchers' findings are highly consistent. In fact, there's this gentleman, Warren, with her book, How to Find a Life Partner, I think so, that's the title. It said the most stable marriages are those involving two people with many similarities. So this research puts people in three categories, okay? The team of researchers, they had three groups. And each of these groups has groups of 35 couples. Group one consists of couples who were happily married. They were very happy in their marriage. Group two consists of couples who are having troubles but planning to stay in their marriage together. Group three are couples who consists of couples who were on the verge of separation. Let's look at what made the difference between these groups. The study found that the happy couples were significantly similar in general activities, friendliness, and personal relations. They're very similar. Number two, the unhappy couples tended to be dissimilar. They had a lot of differences. Both groups of unhappy couples were significantly different on emotional stability. Now, Professor J. Philip Rush of Rushton University, Philip Rushton, sorry, of University of Western Ontario has this to say in one of the studies. So several studies have shown that not only the occurrence of relationships, but also their degree of happiness and stability can be predicted by the degree of matching of personal attributes. So it is not just having something similar, we are all Christians, but is if, for example, with religious faith, the degree of seriousness that you attach to your faith, the degree also made a difference in the happiness and stability. So if one person say, I believe in God, but no, I don't go to church. I believe in God, I don't go to church. That can affect. You might all belong to the same faith. And that is where the issue of, as I said in the morning, that Paul was referring to people who didn't accept Jesus as their Lord and Savior. But now Christianity has grown and we've seen things in different categories. And there are quite significantly different Christian practices. So even having a Catholic and maybe a charismatic, they may all be worshiping on Sunday, but they could have significant differences in their relationship. Or having a Jehovah's Witness, and then what other church? A Jehovah's Witness, and maybe the Mormons, Latter-day Saints, or a Latter-day Saints and a Methodist, the differences are significant, and it affects the relationship. They may all say they accept Jesus, but it can affect them. Clinical studies available indicate that a similarity associated with marital success is less associated with marital instability and divorce. Similarity is associated with marital success. It is more associated with marital success. So the more similarities you have, the likelihood that your marriage will succeed. And now remember, I'm not referring to skin color. The more similarities you have, and it is less associated, which means that the less likely your marriage will be unstable or even talk less of divorce. Evidence suggests that dissimilarity per se is associated with instability and divorce. Similarity is like money saved in the bank. Difference is like money owed to the bank. If two people are coming from similar backgrounds, they operate from a position of strength. Their relationship is made significantly easier by all the customs and practices they have in common. When you are going through troubles, when there is tragedy, you know that we can take it to the Lord in prayer. And that serves as another booster for you to survive the difficult times. You will not find one part that, going to the whatever and the cellar or whatever and pulling a glass of gin, a bottle of gin and soaking their problem away. They won't do that. Even when they are celebrating, they will not boost their head away because it's not part of their common practices. They know what to expect from each other and therefore a higher degree of understanding. You know what to expect. That on weekend, on Saturday, Friday evening, no work, we're going to rest, we're going to join service on Zoom, we are not going to go to the market or something. And if one person is going astray, you are able to gently remind that person that, hey, you know what we practice, you know what we believe. And in that case, you even end up indirectly helping one person to be stronger in their faith. And if one is going down spiritually, you help each other. There's nothing more beautiful than hearing your spouse pray for you. There's nothing more beautiful than hearing your children pray for you. There's nothing more beautiful than going to church in Manchester. You know, we've done a program like that before. No, that was rather, is it Manchester? I think so. We hold hands together. You have family holding hands together. Our faith affects our values. Please take note. Put that somewhere. Our faith affects our value. I said this in the morning. It is a real asset when two people put similar importance on spiritual matters in the family. There is real danger when one loves going to church, Bible studies, prayer meetings, while the other has no interest. Oh, I'll be with you in spirit. You are not spirit, you are flesh and blood. It's real danger. And if you have kids, you are confusing them right from start. I'm quoting this from Mensa Otabil, a very popular charismatic preacher, of a charismatic church in Ghana. He has a book, Choosing a Life Partner. Small book, please get it and read it. Choosing a Life Partner, small booklet like that. It could take you 2 hours or so if you're a fast reader to finish or less. And this is what he says. Shared faith is not just a religious issue. Your faith influences your career, your educational and other equally important choices you make. This is what Mensa Otabil is saying. And he even goes as far as saying this, and I agree with him. He said, the way you organize your home and arrange and raise your children, the kind of discipline, foundation, and values you give them must be faith-based. Let me put it this way. The way you arrange your home, the way you bring up your children, the way you relate to your children and things has a way of influencing your children and your own life. In fact, your mental health and well-being is influenced by your beliefs. I said this in the morning. I hope you're here with me, because these are very important matters. And it's so very important. Marriages are more likely to endure, and the family life to fulfill the divine plan if the husband and wife are united and are bound together in common spiritual values and lifestyle. Let me pause here. I've been hearing my own self for a very long time. Any comment? Thank you, thank you. I appreciate Pastor you sharing this here. He has given light and life to all according to the measure of light giving, and each is to be judged. Exactly. The Desire of Ages, page 20, page 210. Any question, any comment? I hate hearing myself alone. I feel lonely here. For somebody, do you have any comment, any questions you want to share, any contribution, any point that hits you that you want to touch on? Anyone? Before I talk about the position of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. So this cuts across. I'm not here to just, I'm sharing broadly here for you to see the importance. Any comment from anybody? Can you raise your hand and share? Or unmute yourself? Or drop a chat in there? I love to take this before we move on. Can you raise your hand if you have a comment? So a teacher was sent to a village to teach. The teacher has been teaching and teaching. And then he asked the children, do you understand it? The whole class said, yes, sir. Then he asked again, don't you understand it? The whole class said, yes, sir. So I just want to be sure. James, wow, it's good to see you here. What a surprise. James, please go ahead.
Hello, Pastor. Thank you very much for your presentation. And I can relate to what you just presented. We're both Pentecostals, and my dad converted in 98. It took 12 years before my mom got converted in 2010. So from age 8 to when I got to uni before my mom converted, I know how our home was. There's a difference now because we are all Seventh-day Adventists. There was a difference when we're all Pentecostals. But when my dad was an Adventist, my mom was a Pentecostal, there were always problems in the house. I had to go to church on Sabbath and go to church on Sunday. When our kid sister was born, my mom pierced my sister's ear. My dad got angry. They nearly fought. It became a big issue. Later, she compromised. But when my dad is not there, she put the earring on. We did baby dedication in both Pentecost and in SD. I mean, everything was like that. Life was so terrible. My mom may intentionally cook and we put crab in it because my dad do not eat. And my dad would have to go, sleep without eating. It wasn't because she didn't love my dad, but because she wanted to discourage my dad for him to come back to Pentecost. So for me, I keep telling some of my friends, it's better to avoid it than to get in a regret. So thank you so much for your presentation.
James, I'm so excited to see you here. That's the first thing, I'm really excited to see you here today. James is joining us from Ghana, but I'm even more excited that you shared your personal experience, growing up in an interfaith marital home. I'm sure this will also go a long way to inspire somebody there as well. And you're coming from an angle of being the child and your experience as a child, not even the experience of the couple, but you are the child from the home and how that actually impacted you. And I really, truly appreciate you sharing that with us. And by the way, James, your dad later became a Seventh-day Adventist minister, is that correct?
Yes, he is. He is.
Wow.
And my mom was a shepherdess, and they give her all the fans stuff for mommy, and she's happy. And I keep telling her, remember those days?
By the way, you know that James's name is James McKeon Amor, which means, and James McKeon was the founder of the Church of Pentecost, isn't it?
That is right, yes.
Exactly. Thank you, James. I really appreciate you sharing that, really, truly. Yes. Any other comment, question from anybody else?
Pastor?
All right, then. Yes.
What would you
Pastor
say?
Nebo.
Thank you, Pastor, and thank you for your presentation thus far and this morning, the blessing that the church received. If someone should say, Pastor, that interfaith marriage doesn't matter to God because marriage is something that is ordained of God, what would your take be on that?
If somebody said interfaith marriage doesn't matter.
Yes, because God is the originator of marriage.
All right. God is, I've heard this question before. God is the originator of marriage, but God also gave us the power of choice to make the right choices. I don't think that if somebody gets into interfaith marriage, I said this morning, that the person has sinned, but God is concerned about our salvation. God is concerned about everything that happens to us. God is concerned because, as I said this morning, whoever we attach our life to can affect our destiny, can affect our eternity. And James had just even shared his own experience as well. And as I talked on earlier on, today, this morning, and this afternoon, the choices we make, whenever we are going to get married, we are only concerned about ourselves. But if God blesses us with children, the impact that can have on children do matter. There are certain things that may not be sinful, but they can have significant impact on other people and also on ourselves. So God absolutely is concerned because he is so concerned about every detail, every choice that we make. And I think that as we go forward a little bit, I will share with you why this matters even to God. For now, I'll just give that brief response there. God established marriage. God originated marriage. God created marriage. And God put clear guidelines down for marriage. This morning, if you were here, I talked about Abraham, and when a life partner was being searched for Isaac, I also talked about the wrong choices that Samson made in the beginning. He couldn't be bothered. The parents asked him, couldn't you find anybody within this area that shares in your value? All Samson said was, if she pleases me well, get her for me to wife. And you know what happened? Samson nearly lost his eternal life until his head was shaved, and the people, the Philistines, made a mockery of God. They praised their God, Dagon. In fact, they asked, where is your God right now? Let him come and save you. And they were thanking God. Princes, about 3,000 princes and important people came to gather in a stadium to celebrate and made a laugh at the God of Samson. Eventually, Samson cried unto God. He said, oh, remember me. I pray you. And the Bible tells us that his hair began to grow again, and then God heard him. And when we go to Hebrews, okay, Hebrews 11, we hear of all the saints that were mentioned, and Samson's name was mentioned in there in the patriarchs and matriarchs of the Bible. So the choices you make, like I said, it's not a sin, but if care is not taken, it can lead you to sin. And Samson's life is a true example of that. He joined his life with somebody who never believed in the God of Israel, and so affected that person had different values. That woman, we know, Delilah and the rest, Delilah was driven by money. Money was her value. And Samson fell, and the judge of Israel was now being used like a bull grinding wheat for them. So there's a way that seems right to a man that can, lead to the way of death? I think I have over-answered that question, Pastor. I hope I've responded to that.
Thank you, Pastor. I've just noticed that there are another 2 questions in the chat. Would you want to take them now or later? Do you want to take them now?
Yes, I think it'll be good we take now.
Okay, so Pastor, this question says, what about potential partners who are willing to come to the Adventist church but aren't Adventist?
So let me put it this way, and I'm going to talk about that. And so I am having a difficult understanding the question there, really. So, what about them?
Okay, so say there's a couple, one's an Adventist, the other one isn't. And the one who's not Adventist is willing to become Adventist in order to marry the Adventist.
Okay, so one is not.
Yes.
Okay, and the one who wants to, the other who is not wants to become.
Would become in order to marriage.
Okay, now that is like a gamble. That is like a gamble. There are people who even say I don't at the altar. It does happen. And there are people who will say, I do, and they go ahead. I shared my own auntie's experience with you in the morning. I touched on that this afternoon, and so they do all of that. So what is it that can make them want to be married after and cannot? So for me, this is this way. This is who I am. I am here because of this man, Jesus Christ. And I said this in the morning, he has made me become who I am today. And if you want the whole of this package that I am today for yourself, you cannot accept me without accepting him. Accepting me means that you're accepting him. And because he is like a father to me, both of us need to accept him to make this move. You see, sometimes people say, I want to be this before that. And I said a lot in the morning. So I want to encourage you, please go and watch the YouTube, the one we put on the YouTube in the morning. It will answer a lot of this question. What I do, and I'm throwing it all out there, I'm a professional therapist. I'm a relationship therapist. Some of these issues are dealt with in premarital counseling. Because sometimes this is like something that is a worry for the other person who is not. Maybe they are not very ready yet, and it's very genuine. They may have challenges. They may have some unanswered questions, and they need something to push them to make that final decision. And they're hoping that the marriage, so they want to join you, not because they have accepted the faith, not because they have actually accepted the teachings, but they have gotten there by the situation. It's a situational sort of thing. That is not strong. That is not grounded. Because if the person accepted and is convinced that, yes, this is the truth, and all to Jesus I surrender, and as for me and my house, we shall serve the Lord in this way, you are assured. You are assured. But what we're saying here is that the person is not ready, the person is not converted, the person hasn't accepted, but I want to go in there because of marriage. They can get married, and because they are not converted, they can suddenly double down. They'll go to church, they may not go, and all of that. And you be careful when you're pushing people to get to how do I want to put this? Take your time, okay? It's always helpful to say, look, I'm ready to have some further studies with you because I'll be happy that we do this with the full support and all of that. I need you to understand this, to believe in it, and to accept it, to be convinced and be convicted yourself. Go beyond belief to conviction. That is more encouraging. But when you say, okay, let's get married, baby, and after we are married, I can assure you, you see me every day. When the honeymoon temperature has finally dropped, are they always going to follow you to church because of that, or they will go to church because they found Jesus? And I don't want to preach a sermon here, but I believe that Jesus will be excited that this person has accepted him and the entire truth, the whole truth, than he's coming or she's coming because they got married. So I just want to say there's work there to be done. And I would encourage you to get an Adventist, therapist or counselor or pastor who is ready to do premarital counseling, because there may be some doctrinal questions that may be bothering this other person that you might have not been able to fully answer. And if it comes in session, that person could be given some resources to better answer those questions and settle their anxiety. Becoming a Seventh-day Adventist Christian is a whole 360-degree change of lifestyle. And it can be very intimidating to others. So while you are in this, don't put pressure on this person. Be understanding, be supportive, be patient, and provide resources. Use the church's resources to help them. Sometimes we are quick to make people Adventists even before they become Christians. And that is why they don't stay. After we plunge them into the baptismal pool, when this number of people were baptized, and by the time you realize they are not staying because they're not fully grounded as well. Another thing that will help you, especially, and I could say a lot about this, is that do not keep this person away from the church before the person starts coming after the wedding. And as I'm going to be saying soon, introduce them early to the youth ministry, youth program. Do you have Friday night events? Okay, do you have camp meeting? Do you have youth camp? Let this non-member develop relationship, develop friends. Let the elders get to know him. Let the pastor get to know him. Let them be friends. It makes the transition easier. But you've not connected them with anybody. The youth leader doesn't even know that, oh, there's this new guy, sister so-and-so has started bringing. Okay, so there's no relationship that is built. The church has a lot of resources, including this afternoon program. These are resources that you could make good use of. The first part of this presentation has nothing to do with Seventh-day Adventist Church. It is research findings and everything across board. It applies to every denomination. And then this last part I'm about to go to is to talk about the position of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. So anybody can benefit from it. Family ministry has programs, youth ministry has programs, women ministry has programs, men ministries have programs. The church pastor is there. The church has loads of resources there. Make use of them, grab them with both hands. It becomes easier. All right.
Okay, Pastor, there are two more questions. I don't know if you want to leave them.
I thought that was the last one, so I'll answer these ones quickly. Yeah.
Okay, so the second question part of that, Pastor, is a very lengthy one, so maybe you want to look at that in the chat.
Okay.
But this question is this: does marrying a non-Seventh-day Adventist, would that take away the blessing that you'd receive as an Adventist, in terms of even if one member of the family remains a Sabbath keeper or an Adventist?
Every blessing comes from God, and it's God who gives blessings. I'm not in the position to say what blessings that will be imputed to a Seventh-day Adventist or whatever. There are blessings coming from God. But as I have presented so far, you will understand that it's more beneficial, psychologically, socially speaking, mentally, and all of that, for you to belong. As I think I've spent quite a bit of time talking about intimacy and what pulls you together and all of that. But if you found yourself already in a situation like this, it requires more work. It requires more effort because it can become more daunting. But if it comes to blessings from God, let me say this very carefully here. I believe that God would rather have you legally married to somebody than not be in there and be fornicating. God would rather you are married to somebody who doesn't share the same faith than you going about doing what? Taking the honey before the moon. I know we have children who might be watching as well, but and I'm hoping that you understand. But that should be the last resort. It is very important. I believe that God blesses both the sinner and the saved. God doesn't hold things from us, but the Bible says he who finds a wife, and I believe also a husband, finds a good thing and obtains what? The favor of the Lord. Now, I believe that promise is for those who believe Jesus and accepted him in total. So there's a special blessing for you, but it is God who would bless you. It's just that I'm talking from the practical, scientific, research-based evidence of what it is. But I believe that God would rather bless you for getting married to somebody who may not share your faith than you remaining single and breaking the commandments of God. There's no blessing in that.
Pastor, the other one, which I thought was a question, was worth a reflection or comment. From,
okay, which one is that?
Okay, let me just go to and I, Pastor, God richly blessing you to you for the emphasis on similarities. I would like to draw attention to the fact that we need to look for the similarities even with people in the same faith. There are many unconverted in the house of God and are there only to destroy the life of others once they are allowed in. The fact that the brother or sister is sitting with you on the pew do not make him a child of God. Watch, pray, read for the knowledge, and pray unceasingly. So that's the comment.
I completely agree with you. There are I was going to say sheep, but they're rather wolves in sheep's clothing within us. That's what I think I said this morning, and it is on one of the slides, as I will share with you soon. The fact that the person goes to the same church with you doesn't necessarily mean that you should walk in there blindly. You end up shooting yourself in the foot. If it was so, we wouldn't be having marital issues in the church. Maybe you get to a point where people become too, what is the word? Complacent. Oh, he's a brother. And I think I said it was in the morning or this afternoon that, oh, this person is a treasurer and he is a youth leader. That doesn't make you a wife or a husband material. So the word I use in the morning, watch and pray, which means that keep one eye closed and keep the other eye open while you are praying for. It should be like this: watch and pray, watch and pray. So you see, sister, so and so, do follow due diligence. I think I talked about this last month or so in our presentation. Follow due diligence. Don't just jump in there. You are in love. So love is not blind. So I really appreciate you putting that comment there, whoever did so, to re-emphasize this. Yeah. Pastor, do we have any other comments there?
No more comments at Pastor Francis.
Okay, well, let me talk briefly about the Seventh-day Adventist Church's position. Now, this is what was said in the Seventh-day Adventist ministers handbook, and of course it's also stated somewhat in the church manual. So the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and I'll tell you why this position, and I have to tell you this has been quite difficult for some Seventh-day Adventist ministers as well, and I have to tell you straight away there, because sometimes you have some people have difficult, they have people that want them to marry them and all of that because of the relationship and all that. But this position is hard for some people. He said, and I'll tell you the reasons why, but I just share here, for this reason, Seventh-day Adventist Church strongly discourages marriage between Seventh-day Adventists and non-Seventh-day Adventists, and strongly urges Seventh-day Adventists Seventh-day Adventist ministers not to perform such weddings. Now, this is the most difficult part of this presentation, I would say. So let's go there. Listen to what the spirit of prophecy says, and this is what preceded that quote there I shared earlier. The happiness and prosperity of the marriage relation depends upon the unity of the parties. Remember, the word is unity of the parties. I've talked about it in another form, which is what? Intimacy. I've quoted Otabel to talk about how, our faith affects even the way we decorate our homes, the way we arrange things in our home. Now, everyone says, but between the believer and the unbeliever, there is a radical difference of tastes, inclinations, and purposes. They are serving two masters, between whom there is between whom there can be no concord. My apologies for that. However pure and correct one's principles may be, however pure and correct one principles may be, the influence of an unbelieving companion will have the tendency to lead away from God. And I've given you some examples even of my own auntie, and how for the moment she said, had the Bible not said, and within a year or two, she said, had the children, so you can shift in the way from that. Now, let me put it this way. This is what the church manual says. And I want you to take note of this. The church recognizes that it is the prerogative, okay? It is your choice. It is your prerogative, the prerogative of the individual to make the final decision relative to the choice of a marriage partner. It is your choice. The church will not choose for you. It is your choice. So the church recognizes that. However, it is the hope of the church that if the member chooses a marriage partner who is not a member of the church, the couple will realize and appreciate that the Seventh-day Adventist minister, please take note, who has covenanted and upon the principles outlined above, should not be expected to perform such a marriage. If an individual does enter into such a marriage, please. So that's the first portion. I want you to take note of the second portion, which I think a lot of our churches have erred on this. The second part is very important. If an individual does enter into such a marriage, the church is to demonstrate what? Love and concern with the purpose of encouraging the couple towards complete unity in what? In Christ. Pastor, I can tell you, I have seen and heard of how mean some Seventh-day Adventist churches have treated either their member or a non-member who is marrying from them. They will not go for the wedding. They will not, show any support. They will not give any gift. They will not acknowledge them. They treat them as if these are people who are condemned to eternal damnation. And it has been very difficult. What the church has said is that Seventh-day Adventist ministers. It didn't say we should throw away our member and treat the partner of the other person as if the person is an enemy of God. The church recognizes that in certain cultures, there are more women than men. In fact, I was researching the history behind this position of the church. And I can tell you how presidents of divisions, committees that were set to work on this, and it's taken years. And the disagreement, it still goes on but we are aware, and I've proved to you all this afternoon and in the morning, of the challenges associated. So it's like, as a professional therapist, my job is to point things out to my clients and for them to also see the potholes, but the final decisions lies with them. The Seventh-day Adventist Church acknowledges that the prerogative is yours. And if we show grace, if we show support, if we show empathy, we might win not only our member who is married out there, but the partner could be also won. And that's why I say it is important that we befriend, we connect with them. And that is extremely important. If somebody marries outside of the faith, they have not broken any of the 10 commandments. The only thing is that they're making things more difficult for them. And this is not a Seventh-day Adventist matter. It cuts across nearly every religious or faith bodies. You read other denominations, they are more stringent than the Seventh-day Adventists. So please take note of that. I believe in supporting. Now, let me throw it right here. There have been instances where I had to look for a minister from the other person's denomination or whatever to marry the people. And the other minister said, would you be kind to preach at this wedding for me? And I have accepted it. And I've preached there. And I have done premarital counseling. I'm putting it there straight away to you guys. I've done premarital counseling, and through that, the other person has come to appreciate because of my research and things, as such, some of the things I have promoted to you, I have emphasized the need for what? Intimacy, the need for similarities, and the benefit that are associated in all of that. And in this has contributed to the would-be couple, either slowing down or shifting, or the other person says, I want to learn more about this. I want to know more. Is it okay if we hold on with the date for now? Because it sounds to me, these are things I've taken for granted. And for me, that is very, very important. Your faith has a direct bearing on your financial choices. I've talked about this already. It determines what you will do or not do to earn a living or make money. Returning tithe and offering, Sabbath keeping, diet can become a severe source of conflict within an interfaith marriage. Your faith determines the object of your devotion. For you, it may be in Christ alone. For other people, it will be money alone. It could be many different things. And whom you focus on for divine assistance, it determines what you will do or not do in a time of crisis. This is from Mensa Otabil, a charismatic, his book is Choosing a Life Partner. And this, Pastor, this is the last comment that was brought up. This is what I was talking about. Note very carefully, you may be in the same church, but be spiritually what? Incompatible. So watch out. You may be in the same church. That's why I say watch and pray. So what do you need to look at for that is essential? What are some of the things that you need to look at? You need to have a common commitment to Christ as your Lord and Savior. There are many people who have accepted Jesus as their Savior, but not as their Lord. Because if he is your Lord, then you become the servant. There's nothing worse than having a rich person who doesn't care about God. Because let's move to the next point. View of biblical that a similar understanding of the biblical values that are important to family life. Need to have a similar biblical values to that. And extremely important, a desire to continue to grow in what? Christ. So it's not just now, we need to grow together, and we need to grow together as a family because we have to make it to the kingdom together. And these are very important. Can work together except they are what? Agreed. Marriage is a bad place to find out that both of you are not what? Compatible. And that was the scripture we used in the morning anyway. And I love this quote. Marriage is a bad place. When you finally got married, and I think Elder asked the question earlier on, when we, after married, then we realize that we are incompatible, it will also still require some work. And those who are already in interfaith marriage can and do succeed. Don't give up hope. Many couples, however, experience significant and lasting benefit from professional support and counseling both before and during the marriage. Fortunately, help is now available from many sources in the mental health and the religious communities to assist young couples facing emotional challenges as a result of interfaith relationship or marriages. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of challenges there, but you can minimize the negative impact on your mental health and well-being if you seek help out there. It is very, very important. Now, let me put it this way. I've answered some of the questions. What do you do if you found somebody who is of a different faith? Before you jump in there, follow due diligence. Let your family get to know. Don't keep it quiet, and then at the last day, then you spring a surprise on them. That will not be fair to them. Also, your church has a lot of resources. A lot of resources at your disposal. A lot of books. One of our most popular, I think she's passed away now, Nancy Van Pelt, remember? Wrote lots of books to have and to hold. We've only just begun. Do you remember those books? Very lovely books. Also, Adventist Home by Ellen G. White, and there are many other materials that are there. Make use of this. Invest into your relationship. It's not only going out to dine out, going on some vacation and taking selfies and sticking your tongue out and all of that. That's not what we're talking about, and putting some bunny's ears around there. You think you're having fun. No. When you're going to be employed for a job, sometimes you may go to two, three interviews. See premarital preparation as key. Get books and materials to read. Ask for support from your pastors and your elders. Encourage the other partner to join in Bible studies, to learn and to understand and to know why you are where you are. Don't be afraid to put your faith right there on the table, and how important that is to you, and how that permeates your values, your principles, your belief system, your worldview, and everything. Put it out there straight away. It is very important. And also, when you have done all of that, let the person know that I love you. But there's a certain man that I love even more before I met you. And I will want us to share in the same faith. Now, let me say this, and I want to say it tactfully. Before I say this, if the person doesn't want to, the person loves you, but doesn't want to engage with the youth, doesn't want to engage in, come to your church, doesn't want to partake in the things that have contributed to make you who you are, and just want to have you out of all of that, you're in for some challenges. It's almost to say they don't want your family, they don't want to have anything to do with your parents, they don't want to have anything to do with things that matter to you. All they want is you. That you need to be careful, because they could deny you the things that make you happy in the future and the things that are important to you. Let me resound this. No one person, not even the best husband on earth, not the best wife on earth, can fulfill all your needs. Your spiritual need, your social need, your mental need, your financial, no. When you get married, it doesn't take you away from others. You still need friends. You still need social support. You still need your faith support. You still need your work support. You still need your family support from time to time. Don't let somebody strip you off of all those things because they just want to be with you, or you just want to be with them. So, as I said the other day, pardon my language, to hell with all other things. Nothing else matters. When I'm in your arms, nothing else matters. Those are romantic Hollywood type of things. Families matter. Faith matter. Social support matter. Your mental health matter. All these things matter. Your eternity matters. Now, if they will not have anything to do with all of this, right from the time you were dating, they don't want to, you invite them to church, they won't come. You invite them to programs, they won't come. Even this Zoom program, they don't want to be a part of it. Be watchful. If they can deny you of all these things, what else in the future would they not deny you? When people are not yet married, they always put their best foot forward. Until finally they have settled. And then you see their real self. Now, let me also say this carefully. There are sisters and sometimes some brothers who have stayed 40, 45, now they are blaming God for denying them. I said this, and I said, I'm saying it carefully now. I believe, this is my own opinion. I don't have scripture to buttress it, but I believe that God would rather you marry somebody than be what? Breaking the 10 commandments. But if you decide that you have tried everything, All the steps that I've shared with you, you have made use of the church resources. Your family has supported. Your pastors have gotten involved, and nothing has happened. And you decide to go ahead. Just remember that you need to put in a lot more work. Don't just walk in there. Make use of the resources. Make use of professional counseling, both before, during, and even after the wedding, because you're going to be needing that. And get your church folks involved. The more people you know are on your side, the less possible it is for somebody to deny you of your faith. Let me take a few more comments or questions. I'm aware of the time, and then we can wrap up. Any hands up?
No one's yet, Pastor.
Okay, any question? I am surprised there's a lot of silence today. I'll give you a few minutes, a couple of minutes to put your thoughts, your questions together. You can type, you can raise your hand, you can ask in any language. We will have somebody to interpret that for us. So please. Okay. I hope that I have answered your questions, and I hope that we have touched quite a bit on this today. I hope that I have drawn your attention to the importance of it, and I am hoping that you will take something out of this today. I wanted to get more questions because the presentations alone may not capture everything that people want to hear. Richard, are you aware if somebody has any question there?
Not really.
Okay.
From what I'm saying, there's nobody. I think we've all understood your presentation, and most of the questions we wanted to ask, you have already touched on it. So that is why the platform is very quiet. Yeah. So.
All right then.
Yeah.
All right then. I want to thank you all for the attention, and I'm hoping that, by the way, if you want to reach me, just go to gregclaydavis.org. Let me see if I have that there, gregclaydavis.org. Let me share that. If you need me to do a presentation for your own church, or you want some counseling, or you have further questions to ask, please feel free to just go to that. My email address is there. My web address is there. All right, I see a hand up there. Mercy.
Hello, Pastor.
Please. Yes, ask your question.
Okay, so I just wanted to ask, is it good to seek advice from friends? Because I've heard you saying we should seek advice from professionals, pastors, elders. But I just want to know if friends can also contribute to helping with a good marriage. Thank you.
All right, then it depends on the type of friends you're dealing with. Do they have the skill? Do they have the experience? Do they have what it takes? Are they people who you believe that will share in your values and your beliefs and all that? It's very important. So it wouldn't just be just any friend. Do these friends have what it takes? Are they somebody that you think that they have what it takes to advise you? Okay. I wouldn't stop that, because a pastor, an elder, or another person, they don't need to have a title, may be very experienced or may have all the skill to advise you. If you believe that they have, just don't go in there blindly though. If you believe that they have what it takes, then I would say go for it.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Do we have another question there? I thought I saw two hands. Yes. Can you please unmute yourself and ask your question?
Okay. It's not really a question. It's just really like to just thank you for some of the clarity that you've given, and maybe just to kind of like encourage one another to be like, let us kind of like welcome one another, especially like if a partner is bringing a person from another church. I'm saying this because I'm speaking from an experience that I'm not 7 day. I was never a 7 day Adventist born, but because of my husband, I then transitioned, and it was really a very difficult process. And I always say to him, if I didn't know God, I would have left the church. But because I knew who my faith was and I had my own faith, that's why I stood up. So it's just an encouragement to all of us that if we see people bringing in partners, let us just encourage and love them, like your last slide, that we just need to encourage and love them, and sort of give them that support that they need so that their unity can be in Christ than for us to judge. So thank you very much for your presentation. It really answered loads of things that I had, which I really knew, but it's just sort of a confirmation. Thank you very much.
I thank you. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Is it Motlage, right? Yeah, I think you nailed it right there, and that is very important. And that is why I also say that if you are a member, the youth ministry, the young ladies, the men's ministry, we should go beyond just looking within. Who is new in the church today? Sometimes, when we develop strong relationships within our church, people come and they feel welcome, they feel accepted. Don't assume that everybody you see at your door is already a Seventh-day Adventist. Be open-minded and reach out and be nice and be kind to them. Ask them, as I talked about this morning, FORT, Fort. Okay, ask about their family, ask about the occupation, ask about their recreation. What do they do for fun? So what do you do for fun? And then share your own testimony as well. It's very important. If we can do that as a church, we need to be sensitive to seekers and to new people who come within our midst, especially during potluck time. Look around for people who are not familiar and serve them and sit by them and share with them, get to know them. For all you know, you are helping somebody make a decision there as well. I will take a question for Brother Poku in a minute, but there's a comment here. If you're ready to start a new relationship, is it advisable to stay clear of non-Adventists or keep an open mind? I would say watch and pray. Watch and pray. With all that I have presented to you, I would say, and I'm not saying this on just Adventist, non-Adventist. What I've been saying is that look for similarities in values, similarities in faith. And one of those last but one slides that I was sharing with you, the principles to follow, similarities. So don't just, let me look for that. Okay. Don't just gloss over these things. You did, and as we said in the morning, whether you eat or drink, what are you doing it for? What should you do it for? Do it to the glory of God. Whether you are dating, whether you are marrying, whether you are courting, do it to the glory of God. And there should be some guiding principles for the one who asked the question. I said this of this. Okay, when it comes to faith, do we have a common commitment to Christ as a Lord and Savior? Do we have a similar view of biblical authority? Do we have a similar understanding? Now, when I say biblical authority, there is also there a common commitment also there. Do we share in the 10 commandments? All of them, not some of them, all of them? Do we have a similar understanding of biblical values that are important to family life? And then, very importantly, do we have a desire to grow, a desire to continue growing in Christ? Okay, this should guide you when you are making that decision. It's extremely important that it guides you when you're making that decision. And so I would say, look out for those similarities, and your own belief should also be the foundation for you. Tagging your life with somebody is very important. If you don't find anybody, let me put it this way: look out. You have people all around you, and Seventh-day Adventists. The one who asked the question, I don't know whether it's okay. The name is Thelma, so I believe that's a female. Look out for this. Follow these processes. If you have done all of this and nothing has happened, you've gone through, you've prayed, you walked through the pastor, all the steps that I've shared with you, then you can start finding somebody who may fall in this. But before you tag your life with that person, make sure that this person accepts you in total. In total, that includes your faith, and they are ready to share in that. If you have an Adventist husband and you are not, is it wrong if we attend the other party's fellowship once in a while, since the woman also has passion in the faith? I think that is a conversation you both should have. This is an understanding you both should have within you. There is nothing wrong in joining your partner if they are there. You want them to be with you. There's nothing wrong in extending some overtures as well. Oh, I came to your church today, so next Sabbath, would you join mine as well? You see, we need to be kind and generous. And if you were here with us in the afternoon, I did the afternoon program, I talked about some of those things there as well. So I personally don't think that there's nothing wrong in, going, accompanying your spouse, supporting her there, okay? But it is always important that you know that God says, if you love me, keep my commandments in total, in full. So joining you to your church shouldn't lead to the other person breaking the commandments of God, because he also says in the 4th, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shall thou labor and do all thy work. But the 7th day is the Sabbath of the Lord your God. So that is very, very, very important. He didn't say a 7th day. He said the 7th day. He was very clear and particular about it. By the way, Isaiah 58, verse 13 and 14 is my favorite Bible verse, especially the 14. If you keep your feet from breaking the Sabbath, God give 3 promises. Is number 1, you find joy or delight in the Lord. Number 2, he said, I will cause you to ride in the high places of the earth. Okay. And then the other one, he said, and I will feed you with the heritage of Jacob. When he finished, he put his signature against it. He says, for the mouth of the Lord has spoken it. It's not the prophet, it's not the preacher. God put his thumbprint there. He said, this statement is directly from me, for the mouth of the Lord has spoken. And I don't know whether it's a poker, but one poku. I see one poku there. Eja, one poku. Please speak.
Hello.
Yes, hello.
Yeah, Pastor. It's Enoch's father. Welcome back to Manchester.
It's good to see you. It's good to hear you. Oh my goodness. Eda Hagen, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Right.
We would like to get your number because we need you very well in the family. Anyway, my question is, I will need an interpreter, please.
Yes, don't worry. You are covered. There's an interpreter there.
Okay. One Eware wabra wababruchire enam nkrata nti. Ebi kura onya bosumi mi no onya bosumi mi ensa na oba bi nso aye desperate ewa wade mu. Likewise the men. Eno no obra wo hwehwe mu nwie hu se na ositie no na wo kwa kofa no se na sa wade we no yesi hu se e koso wo ye na bruchire mu a ye wo mu sa bre. And I'm perception number 2 say, for how long does it take for a couple to unite? And I say, choosing to unite. That is all what I want to know. Thank you.
So I will ask somebody to interpret the first one. Please, if you have the first one interpretation, can you put it out there? But I heard the last one clearly, and understood that clearly. But who is doing the translation for us?
Okay, Pastor, I think what he said was that there are certain people who marry a marriage of convenience. When I say convenience, I mean for their papers. And it so happens that someone gets married through that means. Most of the time, they don't really look at the person that they are marrying. And what is your take on that? That was the first question.
Listen, my view on that is very strong. You know, if you are getting married not for the purpose of marriage, that is outrightly against the will and the commandments of God. That's what I believe. If you're getting married simply because of immigration issues, I don't think that is really marriage in the sight of God in the first place. I need to put out there clearly. If because you've been here and then it's taking you a long time and you're having difficulty getting your document, and you believe that, oh, if you show that you're married, you're able to show marriage certificate, you will get your document and that will be okay for you. Trust me, that is not acceptable before God. If God wants to bless you, you can even go back to your home country and God will still bless you regardless of where you are. But if you take these steps for the sake of convenience, and I like the label, marriage of convenience, and because of your own personal convenience, you break the commandments of God, or you lie to people and lie to the state and lie to yourself, I wouldn't want to say too much about that. I believe that that is not acceptable before God. We are a community of faith, and we need to have enough faith in God that no matter what will come our way, God will bless us. Even if it means that you should go back to your home country, God will still take care of you. And I know this is a very sensitive subject, but the sensitivity shouldn't stop me from telling the truth. It is what it is, and the truth must be spoken. And unfortunately, I've seen this in some of our churches in Europe. And while my heart goes out for them because of the pain and difficulty, I believe that we need to trust God enough that even if we have to go back to where we came from, God will help us build our lives back again together. That's what I can say to that. Now to the last question from my good old Era Aquahagen. And I miss you anyway. I missed you, so we'll talk. We'll talk on the other side. Let me put it this way. How long should it be? I will be concerned about anything below 6 months. And even if it's 6 months, it should be that you have known this person, maybe be within the same church or the same community. You know about them, you know about their families, you know who they are, they also know you. And that is important. As I said this morning, research has indicated that it takes about 50 minutes of deep engagement for somebody to be called an acquaintance. It takes 90 minutes of deep engagement, regularly seeing somebody and talking and communicating and engaging, for you to call the person a friend. It takes 200 hours of meeting, engaging, and communicating at a deeper level for you to comfortably refer to somebody as best friends forever. You know, and I'm not saying that, okay, let me take two weeks to do this. No, it must be normal. And there's a lot to know about people. What is their attitude towards God, their faith, what belief do they have, what principle do they have, how do they manage anger, how do they manage money, what are they like under stress, what are they like when their needs are not being met? How do they manage things when things are not going well for them? What is their relationship with the opposite sex? What is their attitude to their parents or somebody else? It takes time to know these things. It takes time to know these things. So I would say that 1 year of deep engagement, knowing people, knowing the persons around them might be helpful. And just rushing to marry 3 months after you met the person, or 6 months just when you met the person for the first time, could spell doom for you. And it also depends, again, on the age and maturity of the two as well. The age and maturity of the two as well. I would say ideally 2 years will be great. 2 years will be great. Being in a relationship 6 years or more could also have significant impact, because studies have shown that people who stay in relationship for so long will definitely be tempted to take the honey out of the moon, and by the time the moon comes, it is dry because the honey has been all taken out of the moon. And so, and so a lot of crazy things may have happened. And then excitement. I mean, why should I be excited about something that I've used and I'm so familiar with it? Okay, okay. So more than six years dating can also be again troublesome. But it is not a general statement, because maybe 4 years you knew each other, but you were in separate countries or separate universities. You hardly saw each other and all of that. So that would be understandable that it took a longer time. But if it is regular, frequent dating where you meet regularly and all of that, 2 years should be good enough for you to know. Remember, you're not only knowing the person, but you are knowing the people behind the person as well, and giving the opportunity for the other person to also know you and your own people, your families and your relatives and stuff as well. And of course, you should have things in place